Today on Dylan Talks Tone, we're going to talk about single coil pickups. Hey, before you watch this video, one quick thing. In the description of this video below, there is going to be a link to the Patreon page for Dylan Talks Tone. And I invite you to become a part of that because the people that become a part of that at the $5 tier are going to be entered to win the gear that we buy with that Patreon and use it for reviews and for demos and tests. At the end of November 2018, we're going to give away this little guy right here that we had as part of a demo just a couple of weeks ago. We purchased this with proceeds from Patreon, and now we're going to go ahead and give it back to you because you are the ones that helped us put this video together. We're going to do the same thing in the future with other gear, so I would invite you to become a part of that, and then you can just win this stuff right back. We just want to give it right back to you. I don't need it. I just want to demo it, share it with you, let you be a part of the decision making on what we actually do there, and then give it straight back. Anyway, let's get back to this video. How's it going? My name is Dylan, and this is Dylan Talks Tone. On this channel, we talk all about guitar tone, guitar tech, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Do me a favor and hit the little bell and the subscribe button, and subscribe to this channel if you would. You know, like 60% of the views that we get on this channel are from people that have not subscribed yet, so I invite you to come be a part of what we do here. It's really, really fun. We get a lot of questions about what's the difference between this single coil, that single coil. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of the major types. Instead of demoing every guitar that they come in, because that's very difficult because I don't have availability of all those things, as we do it, we're going to go ahead and throw up on the screen some of the popular artists that have played each of these sounds. And then you can go and put some headphones on and listen to the difference, you know, between, get on YouTube or whatever, and listen to each of those. And then we'll put some links below also of where you can get some of this stuff and where you can hear some of this music. So I think it'll be kind of fun. Let's go ahead and talk about the first one on our list today, and that is the Stratocaster single coil pickup. Kind of the quintessential single coil sound. These are typically a little bit over a ½ of an inch tall, the coil height, and they typically have an Alnico rod pole magnet in them, and so they don't have screws or other parts usually. Simple single coil. They typically are in the low to mid 5K to high 5K range on the neck, ranging on up from there. So the next style of pickup we're going to talk about is a Telecaster pickup. Using the Strat as a reference single coil, so that's just a basic single coil. Then we take a Telecaster pickup that actually originally started as like a lap steel pickup. They wanted like real spanky, super high output from it, and they wanted it to be real twangy. That's the word that everybody likes to use. So in order to get that, they had a steel base plate to the bottom of this pickup. Now, a lot of people think it's copper, but it's actually not. It's actually steel. And what happens is the steel plate actually changes the shape of the magnetic field, and that causes the coil to act differently. You can actually make a Strat pickup sound more like a Tele pickup if you put a steel base plate on the bottom. There's a lot of myths about what that does. We actually have another video on our channel that speaks specifically about that. The neck pickup of a Tele pickup is very similar to a Strat pickup. It just has a cover on it. That's really all it is. The dimension is a little bit different on all three of these. Overall, it's the same basic idea. It just has a metal cover on it. Some people think that metal cover makes a difference to the tone. Some people don't. It depends on your ears, your setup, the pots in your guitar, and all the rest of that stuff. Let's move along to one of the more confusing arrangements of pickups that a lot of people kind of get confused one to the other. We're going to talk about P90s. Now, P90s are interesting because they are a single coil, but because they were the main single coil in use before Seth Lover's humbucker was invented, they're not typically a very low output, very glassy, clear kind of pickup like a Strat is. They're kind of different, and here's why. It's got steel pole pieces like a humbucker, and it's got 2 bar magnets underneath it like a humbucker. Lots of magnet and a lot of short and very wide coil. It's still a single coil like a Strat, but you can see it's a completely different shape. And so that's why it sounds different. The coil acts different, the inductance is different, the strength is different, the magnetic field is a different shape, Everything about it is different. That's why it doesn't sound like a Strat, but it's still a single coil. 1/4 of an inch tall, fatter, with 2 humbucker magnets on the bottom. They're typically around high 7Ks to high 8K depending on the wind. I like to wind mine to right about 8.2. We showed you the soap bar arrangement in this little blow up that we just did. But it is pretty much exactly the same pickup as a dog ear P90. A lot of people think there's a big difference, like they sound different. It's the same thing. The only difference is the mounting, so the base plate on the bottom of it is different. That's really the only difference. Let's talk about another very interesting single coil pickup, and that would be the humbucker sized P90. There's not a lot of these. There's a few companies out there that make them, but they're kind of a different animal, and a lot of people would expect that they sound exactly like a P90, but they never will, and here's why. They sound pretty close, but not 100% exactly. Here's why. The height of the coil is the same, but look at when we put the regular P90 bobbin next to it. The humbucker shape is shorter, and so the coil shape has to be different. We actually wind ours with a special wire so that we can get very close to the same sound, but it's always going to lean a little bit more stratty because this coil is shorter and it's just a little bit different shape. We have a demo on our website. You can check it out at dylantalkstone.com. You can kind of hear what they sound like. They sound like a P90, but then just lean it a little towards a Strat, and that's kind of what the tone that you get. Here's another really confusing one for a lot of people. You'll hear it on the internet all the time. They'll show a picture of a Jazzmaster and they'll say, oh, I like those Jazzmaster P90s. Those aren't P90s. They have magnetic pole pieces like a Strat with a 4-bond bobbin like a Strat. But then they kind of look like a P90, but they're not. We reminded you to remember the measurement, 1/4 of an inch tall for a P90 pickup. A Jazzmaster is really only about 1/8 of an inch tall, thereabouts, but it has the same amount of winds on it, more or less, but it makes the coil shape completely different, and it has a lot less magnet because it doesn't have those 2 big humbucker bars underneath there, but it just has the 6 pole pieces, kind of like a Strat or a Tele. So it's a completely different animal. Jazzmaster pickups do not sound like P90s. They have a lot more highs to them. They're a lot crisper, and usually they're used with like 1 meg pots, sometimes 500K pots. So they're a very different animal altogether. A Mustang pickup is very similar to a Strat pickup, just with a little bit different dimension and the way the wires come into it and stuff, but it's very similar to a Strat pickup. They're not quite interchangeable, but very similar. A Jaguar pickup has a metal claw on it. Remember how we talked about the Telecaster pickup had that metal plate on the bottom so that it would change the shape of the magnetic field? The same thing here. That's why that's on there, because it actually changes the shape of the magnetic field, making the pickup sound different. They're very similar to a Mustang pickup, but it has that claw on the bottom that completely changes the characteristics and the feel of that pickup. Of course, there's other more obscure types of single coil pickups. We could think of like a gold foil pickup. This is one that we put in a build about a year ago. I got this one from Tim McNelly at McNelly Pickups. We'll put a link to his stuff below too. He makes some great stuff. They're very low output. They have a nice round full sound to them. They're a great sounding pickup. Their own animal completely. Well, thanks for hanging out for a few minutes and going over like a little tour of single coil pickups. My personal favorite is P90s. I love our P90s. I love P90s in general. I like making them. They're my favorite. I also like Tele pickups, Strat pickups. I actually like them all. I'm a single coil kind of guy. I love them. Yes, they do have a little bit more noise because of 60 cycle hum that comes from, you know, radio frequency interference. We'll put a little link, one of those little gray boxes, to talk about how to shield your guitar and maybe quiet it down a little bit when you have single coil pickups. But they are great, and hopefully this helps to kind of break apart maybe a little bit and help understand some of the differences between these pickups. Some of them look so similar that it takes a little bit of knowing to understand the difference between the two. If you have any questions about this or anything else to do with pickups, guitars, wiring, do me a favor and put it in the comments below, and maybe we'll make a video just for you. Make sure you hit the little subscribe button and the bell next to it. That way you'll know the next time we make a cool video just like this one.